The side hall smelled different in morning. At night, it had carried damp stone, old paper, and the faint bitterness of cheap medicine. After dawn, it smelled of ink, wet shoes, and stewards who had been awake longer than they wanted. 2 outer stewards stood near the entrance. Neither blocked Lin Fan. Both looked at the mud on his hem before pretending not to. That was already an answer. They had been told to observe, not seize. Elder Gu sat inside the same plain room where Lin Fan had been questioned the previous day. A register lay open on the table. Beside it sat a small bowl of clear water, a folded cloth, and 3 thin silver needles used for meridian inspection. No elder Shen. No physician. No disciplined steward. Private enough to test. Public enough to deny harshness. Lin Fan bowed. Elder Gu did not immediately tell him to rise. Pressure settled over the room. Not heavy. Measured. The kind of pressure a cultivator used when he wanted a weaker disciple to reveal discomfort by accident. Lin Fan allowed his shoulders to tense by the smallest degree, then forced them still. He let the root pain show as fatigue, not fear. You look worse, Elder Gu said. Root pain worsened before dawn. So I heard. There it was. The night steward had reported. Not everything, or Lin Fan would not be standing here unbound. Enough to make this examination necessary. Elder Gu gestured to the stool before the table. Sit. Lin Fan sat. The stool was low, forcing the knees to bend and the lower abdomen to compress. Deliberate. Compression aggravated root pain. Elder Gu watched his face. Lin Fan let the pain pass through his breath once. Where did you vomit? Elder Gu asked. Behind east lower quarter. Which side? North wall, near the broken jars. Truth adjacent. He had passed there. Anyone see you? Not that disciple noticed. Did you leave the quarter? The question was direct. Lin Fan looked up. Elder's order was to report symptoms. Disciple did not go to the west training yard gate. Elder Gu's eyes sharpened. Not an answer. A useful answer. I did not ask about the gate. The message did. For the first time, Elder Gu's finger stopped above the register. What message? Lin Fan reached into his sleeve and took out ash-stained paper fragments. Not the original message, that had burned too completely. These were scraps he had prepared from dosage paper and lamp ash, enough to prove burning, not content. He placed them on the table. A note was pushed under my door before night. It said to go to the west training yard at midnight. I burned it. Elder Gu looked at the ash. Why not report it? Because a disciple under observation receiving a secret note at night creates suspicion whether he reports or not. And burning it creates less? It creates no meeting. Elder Gu watched him closely. Lin Fan continued, Hanwei came later and told me Lu Chen did not write it. This, he chose to reveal. Not the token yet. Let Elder Gu connect Hanwei to the night, but not the underground route. Hanwei came to your door? Yes. Alone? As far as disciple could tell. What did he want? To test me before dawn. And you? I refused to open the door. Elder Gu's mouth twitched. Then? He left. Incomplete truth. Elder Gu heard the incompleteness. Did he give you anything? Lin Fan paused. Too fast a denial would fail. Too slow would also fail. He chose a third path. He tried. A training yard token was pushed under the door. I did not touch it with my hand. Elder Gu leaned back slightly. There was the real interest. Where is it? I left it where it would answer him. Silence. The room's air changed. Elder Gu understood enough to be wary and not enough to be satisfied. Explain.
Han Wei wanted one exchange at the third post before dawn.
I had no reason to accept his ground. I had reason to learn whether the token was real. I used it to confirm his access, then left it where he could recover it. Every word true. Not one word about the hidden plug, trench, or chamber. Where? Near the third post.
Again true, in a buried sense.
The support stone crack in the trench lay beneath the third post's boundary.
If Han Wei recovered it, the token was near enough to support the statement. If he did not, Elder Gu would hear Han Wei's version and compare.
Elder Gu studied him. You did go to the West training yard.
Not through the gate. The elder's eyes narrowed. That was a risk.
But hiding all movement would conflict with the Night Steward's likely report. Better to admit movement in a way that made the method sound like evasion, not inheritance.
Elder Gu tapped once on the register. You are under observation because your route is unstable.
Yes. You received a secret note, a private visit, and a training yard token from a stronger disciple.
Yes.
Then before dawn, while under observation, you left your room, avoided the gate, worsened your symptoms, and now sit here telling me only the parts you choose.
Yes.
The clean admission struck the room oddly. One steward outside shifted. Elder Gu's gaze sharpened further.
You admit that?
Elder summarized accurately.
Do you think accuracy protects you? No. It reduces wasted correction.
Elder Gu stared at him. Then he laughed softly.
You are either very confident in your usefulness or very tired of living.
Disciple is tired, Lin Fan said. Elder Gu's laughter stopped.
The answer sounded simple. In the current body, it was also visibly true. Pale face. Mud. Root pain. Torn robe.
The first burial's cold pressure helped him look hollowed rather than energized.
The elder saw fatigue and placed it beside audacity. Contradiction again.
Lin Fan let him have it. Elder Gu picked up one of the silver needles. Sleeve. Lin Fan extended his right arm. The needle touched the wrist.
Cold chi entered. Danger.
Elder Gu's probe was more refined than the spirit root pillar's crude pull. It moved along the right meridian, reading inflammation, residue, circulation, hidden stimulants. If it reached the burial ring directly, it might sense the new structure. Lin Fan guided pain to the surface. The scraped meridian reacted honestly.
Swelling. Strain. Residual pillar damage. Combat impact. The needle found enough injury to occupy its first reading. Elder Gu's chi slowed. This meridian is worse than yesterday. Yes. Training yard token? The token was metal. I moved it with a shard. Then why the added strain? Window. Fall. Root pain. Zheng Hu's exchange. And what you are not saying.
Lin Fan did not answer. Elder Gu pushed the needle slightly deeper. The probe approached the palm conduit. The first burial ring stirred. Lin Fan forced it still. The probe brushed the conduit scar left by the spirit root pillar and underground stone plug. It sensed decay trace. Elder Gu's eyes changed. There is withering residue. Meal hall contamination, Lin Fan said immediately.
Do not insult me. Spirit root pillar residue.
Closer. Lin Fan lowered his eyes. The training yard drainage was old. Elder Gu stopped. There. A partial truth with a direction. Old drainage could explain damp decay residue.
It did not explain everything.
But it gave Elder Gu a physical place to investigate, the training yard drainage, where Han Wei had already found the plug disturbed. That would lead toward the trench eventually, but not necessarily the chamber if Lin Fan's moss dust erased the trail and the door sealed.
Risk accepted. Elder Gu withdrew the needle. You found something.
Lin Fan did not deny it.
Did you take it? Not in a way the sect can use yet. Elder Gu's expression hardened. That answer was dangerous.
But it framed the find as unstable, perhaps medicinal, perhaps contamination-related, not as a completed inheritance.
Explain. There is old root decay chi beneath the training yard.
It reacted to my root pain. I used it to stabilize the contamination briefly. It worsened symptoms afterward.
True. Incomplete. Elder Gu looked at the needle's tip.
A faint dark green stain clung to the silver.
He did not look pleased. He did look interested. You cultivated? No. Not by ordinary sect definition. No chi absorption into Dantian. No realm advancement. No formal circulation.
The first burial sat beneath that denial, cold and quiet. Elder Gu held his gaze for a long time. If you lie badly, I punish you, the elder said.
Yes.
If you lie well, I may still punish you later.
Yes.
If what you found damages your root, the sect loses value.
Yes.
If what you found stabilizes your root, the sect gains value.
Yes. Elder Gu set the needle down. Then you will not return there without permission.
Lin Fan lowered his head.
Yes, Elder. Agreement. Not promise. Elder Gu knew the difference.
You will receive 1 additional heat-clearing pill and 1 bowl of clean rice. You will be confined to East Lower Quarter until tomorrow morning except for reporting here. If Hanwei approaches you again, you will send word.
Yes. And Lin Fan. Disciple is here.
Elder Gu's voice cooled. Whatever you think you found beneath the training yard, remember that the sect owns the mountain. Lin Fan raised his eyes.
Yes, Elder.
The sect owned the mountain.
It did not own what it had forgotten beneath it. Not yet.
The first burial ring rotated once, hidden beneath pain, medicine scent, and partial truth.
Elder Gu watched him as if he almost heard it. Almost. Not enough. The examination ended without chains. That meant he had won the morning. It also meant Elder Gu would start looking in the right direction. Time narrowed again.
After leaving the side hall, Elder Gu did not immediately send anyone to dig. That was why he remained dangerous. A foolish elder would have ordered the drainage groove opened in daylight, gathered workers, disturbed the mechanism, and announced to every watching disciple that Lin Fan had found something worth investigating. A greedy elder would have seized Lin Fan and forced him to guide the way, risking root collapse and public rumor.
Elder Gu did neither.
He summoned the night steward privately.
He summoned a maintenance clerk separately.
He sent a routine order to inspect water flow beneath the west training yard after the next rain.
Routine. Delayed. Quiet.
Lin Fan did not hear these orders directly, but he predicted them as he walked away.
Elder Gu liked value. He liked control. He disliked noise. That meant the investigation would move under an ordinary label until he decided whether the old decay chi belonged to the sect's assets or its dangers. That gave Lin Fan perhaps 1 day before the entrance became harder. Perhaps less if Han Wei spoke carelessly.
Perhaps more if Lu Chen advised patience.
Unstable variables. He would not depend on them. The confinement order was inconvenient, but not disastrous.
It limited movement while giving him a reason to remain in his room and cultivate the first burial.
If questioned, symptoms. If watched, weakness. If ignored, progress.
For once, the leash and the path pointed in the same direction.
Elder Gu understood part of that as well.
After Lin Fan left, he examined the silver needle again. The dark green stain had faded, but not vanished. He placed it over a candle flame.
Ordinary root contamination would smoke brown.
Meal hall filler would char gray.
Spirit root pillar residue would leave a faint metallic scent. This stain gave off cold bitterness. Old. Not from the meal hall. Not from any treatment room herb. Elder Gu's eyes narrowed.
He did not know the 9 burials art. He did not know the chamber. But he knew enough to recognize that Lin Fan had touched something beneath the sect's ordinary records. That made the boy more valuable. And more dangerous. He sealed the stained needle in a small paper wrap and wrote no label on it. Some evidence became safer when even clerks did not know it existed. Then he sent for the maintenance maps of the West Training Yard. The maps, he suspected, would be incomplete. That suspicion irritated him. It also intrigued him. By the time Lin Fan returned to East Lower Quarter, the confinement order had already traveled faster than any official notice. Outer disciples loved punishment because it let them weigh another person's misfortune without risking their own. Some looked pleased. Some looked relieved. A few looked disappointed that the order had not included lashes, demotion, or expulsion. Lin Fan let them look. Public confinement was useful precisely because it sounded final. A disciple confined for unstable root symptoms became a problem that had been handled. No one needed to ask why he had mud on his robe, why Han Wei had waited at the training yard, or why Elder Gu had questioned him privately. The sect had named the matter. Most people would accept the name. The dangerous ones would not. Han Wei would not. Lu Chen would not. Elder Gu certainly would not. That was acceptable. 3 sharp eyes were easier to track than 30 dull ones. Dull eyes wandered. Sharp eyes followed hunger, pride, and profit. At his door, Lin Fan paused and listened. 2 breaths from the room to the left. 1 from the far corner. Someone on the roof, too heavy to be a casual listener and too careless to be an expert. Not Elder Gu's people, then. Perhaps Han Wei's. Perhaps a disciple hoping to sell rumor before rumor spoiled. Lin Fan coughed once before entering. The cough was real. The timing was not. The roof breath shifted, satisfied by the sound of illness. The disciple in the far corner stepped away. The left room listener remained, which meant neighbor, steward, or someone assigned to notice whether he collapsed. Good. Let the surface witnesses collect surface truths. He closed his door slowly and set the latch with the hand that trembled most visibly. Only when the wood settled into place did he let the tremor vanish. The first burial ring rotated in the dark beneath his navel. Pain answered. Hunger answered. And far below the sect, something answered after both of them, not loudly enough to be heard, but clearly enough that Lin Fan's damaged root remembered the chamber without permission. Return. Lin Fan pressed 2 fingers against the table edge until the wood creaked. Not because he needed support. Because the small sound gave the listeners outside a harmless explanation for the pause. The roof breath shifted again. The left room listener remained still. Good. They heard a sick disciple leaning on furniture after a difficult summons. They did not hear the word that had touched his foundation. They did not feel the burial ring tighten around a hunger that wanted to answer. Lin Fan released the table. The day was not over. It had only become private.